Hello and welcome to Audio Gyan, an Indian podcast for those interested in design, philosophy and arts. Audio Gyan documents thoughts, ideas and insights from known and unknown gems of India who have done some remarkable work in their field of interest. Visit audiogyan.com for more Gyan sessions. Today I have Veena Bakshi with us. Veena Bakshi started her career as an assistant to renowned ad filmmakers Prahlad Kakkar, Mansoor Khan and Dilip Ghosh. She started her own ad film production house where she made over 300 ad films both as a producer and director. She has made the film called The Coffin Maker, which won National Award for Best English Film in 2013 and also has been awarded many other national and international awards. Veena has briefly worked in television and also teaches film techniques at various institutes around India. So thank you, Veena, for giving us your time and welcome to Audio Gyan.
Thank you so much, Kedar.
Yeah. So today we'll try and understand the relationship between an agency and ad filmmaker. I've taken few interviews of people in the field of agency advertising and got to learn something, but I had like few questions which I wanted to ask you from a filmmaker's standpoint.
Okay.
So the first thing we'll just set the background here that can you explain how are like traditional ad films made?
Okay, when you say traditional ad films, I'm a little...
The regular ads.
The regular ads, yeah.
Which we...
actually, that's a nice word you use, traditional ad films. Because a lot of older ad filmmakers, I would say, like me, the usual stuff, we lament the past, in our days. Okay, so basically the relationship between an agency, a production house, is that the client... approaches the agency for a ad film to be made, which would be part of their campaign. The agency puts together the campaign and rather creates the script of the ad film.
Okay.
The producer is approached and given the script, and then the producer puts the whole production of the film on how to create the script into a film so that it's understood by a larger, varied audience. Most producers rework scripts.
Okay.
Because it's not necessary that the script that comes out of the agency is a film script. Yeah, because saying one thing on press or saying one thing in a photograph and saying one thing in a film are entirely different.
Correct.
Things. So... the producer's job, then once the film has been decided that this is how we're going to be making the film, and then the production is put together, you shoot it, you finish the technicalities, you give the film back to the agency, and then the client, the film is approved.
No, but here does the agency come up with the creative concept behind it? So we can take any examples which you have worked on, say, and then probably elaborate how that particular format went through.
Sure. Yeah, the agency does come up with the creative concept. Primarily, like I said, is because, there's a sales campaign, there's a marketing strategy, there's an advertising strategy that has to be followed. It can't be random. So yes, they do come up with a creative idea. For this is what we're looking for. This is what we want to sell. Because all ad films have to create awareness.
Correct.
Okay, ad films don't necessarily have to sell a product. Okay, but they're part of the sales and marketing is that they have to create an awareness about a product. So what exactly is the awareness about that particular product that only the agency knows and the client knows is what do they want to, are they launching a new product? Or are they highlighting something new about the product? Or are they just being beaten up by the competitor and so need to come back and scream louder than the competitor?
Yeah.
Or are they just feeling very smug about the fact that they don't have competition, and want to tom-tom their smugness. So it really depends on what their thing is. So they create the creatives and they come with those creatives to a production house.
Okay.
So as a producer and a director, I would look at that campaign or rather look at that creative and look at the film part of it.
Okay.
Is how can this be translated into a film, into a moving picture? And yes,
does that include screenplay kind of a thing?
It does.
Okay.
it does include the screenplay. Now the dialogues may be agency lots of times does have a very, very huge say in the dialogues, because at the end of the day they're product specific.
Correct. It has to have a tagline which is there only anyways.
Yeah, and it has to have certain things which you have to keep in mind. It may be safedi, or it may be whatever, कि आपके बाल नहीं झड़ेंगे, or whatever.
Yeah.
So with these things, so those specific dialogues have to be worked.
Okay.
Of course, having said that, yes, I do feel I am out of advertising now, entirely. But from what I hear from people and what I do also see around me, is that the freedom that we had, earlier, which was about 15 years ago, 16 years ago,
okay,
the kind of freedom that I have experienced, and I've seen the freedom start getting curtailed, which was towards the end of my advertising career when I decided to step out. We had a lot more freedom with agencies to be able to turn scripts around, to be able to turn ideas around, to add our own words, and things like that, because there was a trust and faith that we as filmmakers knew how to uplift a film, thereby helping the product. I mean, some of the films that I have made, if I can, and this thing is, I have been actually very proud of being the starter of the Fevicol campaign.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The Dam Laga Ke Haisha.
Yeah.
So those were my films.
Oh, nice.
And then later on, there were other people who got into the act, and the later films were made by other people. And I know it's a dangerous thing to say on a podcast, but I truly feel is that at some point, whoever was the target audience for Fevicol was kind of lost.
Okay.
Because the later films of Fevicol, people getting stuck to a bus and a shadow getting stuck, they're creatively wonderful for awards. But does a carpenter really understand it?
Yeah.
And he's your target audience. He's the one who's buying 500 kilos.
Yeah. Fevicol, yeah.
We are buying 10 grams. So your target audience is, and that's something which is to... I used to actually take care, we used to take care of the fact that you looked at who was your target audience. Was your film being true to the product, rather than to an award?
Correct. Those were catered towards building awards, sending it for awards and stuff like that, yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it was something which Fevicol in 2000, the year 2000, won the campaign of the century. And there were 5 films. Because Fevicol has never done hoarding advertising. They have one hoarding in Valkeshwar, which says Fevicol. And they've never done press. So it was purely on film. And it won the campaign of the century. And all those 5 films were mine.
Oh, wow.
And I was very proud of the fact that it was that we had taken care that the carpenter understands, this film. And realizes that, okay, he is using this product, and what does this product really mean?
Beautiful.
Rather than the HEP generation saying, oh, Fevicol. Basically that.
So where does this overall, as you mentioned, the agencies used to trust the filmmakers before, right?
Yeah.
So... in that time, we won't speak about the current time, but at least in that time, where and how was this partition or boundary or jurisdiction defined, that this is what the agency will think of and this is what the ad filmmaker will think of?
Okay, that's a brilliant question. That's also actually, coming to think of it, there was no jurisdiction. It was quite a free for all.
Okay.
And I must say the trust levels, from an agency to a producer were very, very high. And we were friends. It's like, for instance, you've met Gangadhar Menon.
Yeah.
Ganga's a friend. Okay. So we could sit across the table. In fact, we have actually worked on films and, sat down at the local tapri over a chai and a smoke. And said, "Ki, acha bol." Script kya hai?
Correct.
You know, it's one of those, you know, कि अच्छा script ये है, you know, ये होता है, वो होता है, वो होता है, तू बोल. You know, and then you're looking at the guy and saying, won't work. You know, why? No, I don't think. You know, this is not there, that is not there. Acha, you think so? And the client is being given the final thing, and the client is sitting over there and saying, hello, I mean, can I get involved in this? It's my product. You know, so it's like, yeah, it's because we want to, you know, I mean, give you the best for the product. But there was a lot more bonhomie. You know, so the jurisdictions really didn't, yes, the fights happened.
No, but this is more at a practical level, right? Like in terms of technical, are there or is there supposed to be any kind of boundaries which...
Yes, technically there are supposed to be boundaries. And that producers are not really encouraged to step into the strategy.
Okay. Strategy as to...
The advertising, marketing and sales strategy, which then combines to make that film. So producers weren't really encouraged to step into that strategy because as a creative person, that strategy may not suit me as a filmmaker. Okay, because as a filmmaker, it may take away from something, the way I shoot the film or the way the film is communicating.
You're off the mic.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so the way the film is communicating, it may take away from that if I stick to the strategy. Okay, so if the strategy, they insist in the strategy that I have to show bubbles blowing. Okay, but we're shooting on a mountaintop. And I'm like, hello, you know, I mean, you cannot, how can you have bubbles blowing on a mountaintop? They're not going to happen. You know, the wind's going to blow them away. You know, you can't do it. You know, cinematically, it does not happen.
Correct.
But the strategy insists that you have to have bubbles, then I'm forced to do it and we'll have to create them graphically. And I may not agree with it cinematically. You know, and I may have this thing saying that, but it's just not, it's not possible. And it looks stupid, but chahiye to chahiye.
Correct, yeah.
You know, so these are the places where, you know, so you're not supposed to step in. You know, like Lever's films are very pat. You know, Lever's films are problem, solution, demo of product equals to, oh wow, what a product.
Okay.
Okay, so as a filmmaker, you just shut up and lump it. You know, and within that, we try and get as creative as we can.
Cool. In fact, that naturally like leads to my next thing was like what is the role of a ad filmmaker in general, because he or she has more control over the medium. So like where like how much liberty the ad filmmaker can take in the script itself for the very fact that he or she knows the medium. And this, if you can support with some of the examples, please feel free to take any brand's name. This is not... yeah, of course. Yes, I know what you're saying, because the first thing that most times, you know, you're constantly, especially somebody like me, has to curb my mouth or get into trouble. No, but it doesn't matter at all. Okay, see, it's like this, Kedar, is... Ad filmmakers, you're asking is how much is the interference or how much does one this thing for filmmaking, right? So like once the creative brief is given by the agency, then it's the ad filmmaker's role to take it further because the virtue of knowing that medium itself.
Right.
So what is the level he can push the boundaries and how much one should do or not do, and how does it happen in a traditional environment?
Yeah. See, as a filmmaker, I have to be true to my career, my job, my medium. Okay, that is one. As an ad filmmaker, that ad tag that gets added onto it makes me responsible for the product. Okay, so it does tie a bit of a ball and chain around your ankles. You know, and you do get restricted. However, there was a time when there was a lot more freedom of working as a filmmaker, which I've said earlier. and adding your bit once the creatives came to you,
Correct.
saying that this is not going to work or that's going to work, you know, or how do you want to translate this cinematically, you know. Like for instance, I mean, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I'll use Fevicol itself as an example because
Sure.
those films have been familiar and known. Fevicol never used music,
Okay.
okay, in its advertising. It was always Dam Laga Ke Haisha, you know, and
Now, this brief particularly that we should never use is a filmmaker's call or the agency's call or the producer's call. Like,
this was a call actually taken together.
okay.
It was a call taken together is because the way we came out with the way the ad was written, and you know that the first Fevicol Dam Laga Ke, before that ads were made. Fevicol ads were made before that. It's not that they weren't made, but they were at quite a ridiculous level, if I may say that. You know, they were stupid. You know, and then when the first Dam Laga Ke Haisha script was written, and they had already made an ad with Bob Christo wrestling a chair in a boxing ring.
Okay.
Okay, and they spent a lot of money, and I will not name the producer here, but they spent a lot of money, and because it was a big time producer. Then this ad was written for another product and given to the client. And the client said, why can't we do this for Fevicol? And they said, because we've just spent money, we don't have much money. So the client turned around and said, so get a newer producer. And I had just broken into production.
Okay.
So I was asked, तेरे को करने का है क्या? पैसा नहीं है. So who's going to say no to any work coming your way when you're a newcomer, yeah?
Yeah.
Not knowing the repercussions that were going to happen with the Fevicol brand and being associated with that. So we did the first Dam Laga Ke Haisha ad, which was bodybuilders pulling a block apart. And while we were sitting on the creatives of that ad, it was decided among us, like I turned around and said, you know, I don't see music in this at all. You know, because just take away, I mean, where am I going to put music? And so let's just keep the music out and work only on sound effects. You know, just on effects and sound, and that's it. Let's see, you know, and said that we'll make the ad, and then baad mein if we think it chahiye music, so we'll put it.
Correct.
And they all agreed. You know, and we did the ad and it worked. So instantly there was a decision taken that henceforth there will be no music in the Fevicol ads. Then at some point somebody said that, you know, we need to, what if we add music? Because the script that they wrote was of, it was like a rural kind of a thing, and this lady, this girl, who's carrying 7 pots on her head from the local well.
Yeah.
Okay, and that film was called Panihari. And the little village kids who are trying to break her pots and dislodge her, basically. And there's a carpenter who looks and uses, it's like a metaphor, you know, कि Fevicol का जोड़ है, टूटेगा नहीं. And now for the walk of the girl from the well to wherever she's going, is I said, yaar, you know, just having her walk like that doesn't make any sense. I said, now we need music. You know, so they said, how are you going to put music? So I said, let's make Dam Laga Kar Haisha into a music, yeah? Let's make that musical.
Yeah.
You know?
Brilliant.
Yeah, so we used Dam Laga Kar Haisha, you know, as the song. Okay, and it was done in a Rajat Dholakia, Juku, he did the music. So we experimented with music in that time. So once again, it was agency to producer. My inputs as a filmmaker, you know, came into the script saying that let's add music to this, and now let me shoot it like I would shoot a feature film. So though it was a 20-second ad, you know, we had playback and things like that, you know, to give the girl rhythm to walk.
Correct.
So we shot it, the whole shooting of that ad was like a feature film. There was no pack shot in that feature film, which was something which was revolutionary in those days because there's no pack shot. Because we just painted one of the house's walls, you know, that was a village wall with Fevicol, with the logo. And that was the pack shot.
Wow.
You know, and so these decisions were taken cinematically. You know, these were not advertising decisions. But they worked advertising in the advertising manner.
Interesting.
You know, because the product became visible.
Correct.
You know, it was huge, and we shot it in such a way that I mean, again, now this was a technical thing. I don't know whether if you're interested or
No,
not.
please, yeah.
Yeah, but we designed the set at a 43-degree angle. Okay, literally 43 degrees.
Okay.
And it was like a straight line kind of a thing. So it was a vertical, I mean, it was like a vertical path, you know, for village set. But the set had an angle of 43 degrees. Now, 43 degrees is so that from any angle of the film, you can see Fevicol. Okay, which was right painted on the last house. So you can see the brand right through the film as when it's pointed in that direction.
Correct.
Okay, and at the same time, the street doesn't look curved deliberately. It was so strange mathematically, and at school I was always weak at maths, so I was very surprised at myself that those 2 degrees that we didn't turn didn't give it a curve. You know, and let it look kind of straight. But we could see the so branding, which people hold seminars about, became so strong in that film. You know, so as soon as you were in this angle of the street, wherever the camera was put, you could see Fevicol.
Correct. Interesting. I have to go and watch the...
You'll see it it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
So you'll see the ad.
Cool.
You know, so this was all the cinematic additions into the thing from the ad, from like what you were asking, from my side, which was the film producer and the director.
Cool. I think I'll conclude with one last question, which is... actually, I have 2 questions more, sorry. Now since the creative part is done, you answered it pretty much, but still a different perspective, which is how does the ad filmmaker get satisfaction from his work? I mean, since the agency gives the creative brief and the ad filmmaker has to pretty much execute it without if the filmmaker itself is not intelligent or not doesn't have much insights. It's pretty much like an execution part. So is it first of all that, and if it's not, then how does an ad filmmaker gets satisfaction from what he has done?
Very interesting question. Okay, now here I'm going to be a complete horrible human being.
Okay.
And partly, okay, part of this thing is I truly believe that ad filmmakers today, the younger crowd, is only minting money. Okay, and because if you look at any of the ads, most times 90% of the ads, you're looking at them and saying, what was the product? Okay, so people are, and the kind of units that have increased, you know, like now you have as good as a feature film team working on an ad. So you're looking at that and saying, so where was the brains used? Okay, and you have a whole gamut of, you know, everything is looked at in fact, it's a joke in the industry. You know, if an actor is not getting a dialogue, you know, and you're going on with takes, you know, and like 4-5 take, 6 take, 10 take ho jate, you know, and then the actor will turn around and say, yaar, post mein karna. You know, and that's become a joke, okay? And it's actually come from the advertising side. It's because today most ads are created on post. You know, and we used to make ads which are on camera. Because if you go wrong on camera, there's nothing that your post can do to save it.
Correct.
You know, so yes, I definitely would say, much to the ire and anger of some of the people who might hear this, is that I do feel that intelligence levels, or rather thinking, has dumbed down ever since all these machines that have come to help you. You know, and you can make day into night, and you don't have to really think, you know, of how to do a certain thing. There are...
So the satisfaction comes from how
satisfaction comes from making money. Yeah. So
from
yes, the satisfaction for a filmmaker comes, it's purely the same thing that goes across, is when you look at your film at the end of it and you think you've done a good job, you know, and the film's looking good, and there's the appreciation that comes from everybody around you. You know, the client likes the film, agency likes the film, gets passed in the first shot, and you look at that film at the end of it and say like, okay, yeah, works.
Okay.
You know, that's where your satisfaction really comes from.
Not with the numbers which the client is looking forward to, like return on investment and things like that.
No, you don't really know those numbers.
Okay.
You know, one doesn't really know those numbers as such. And I really don't know how many people are really concerned with finding out whether that product is really doing well. Yes.
Unless it's a social awareness ad, yeah.
Yeah, that is one. Is secondly, yes, the so-called big products, or the known products, like if you're doing an ad for Coke or Pepsi, or Air India or one of those bigger products, yeah, then it's a matter of pride. Then you know that whether you know the figures or not, your ad is somewhere contributing to what the figures are, but you don't really know. But satisfaction as a filmmaker, as an ad filmmaker, comes from seeing your end product.
Okay.
And the fact that you made a film which worked.
Interesting. Cool. So I'll conclude with one last question. Like, how can, especially I know you can again rant about the current generation if required, but how can an ad filmmaker take a stand of not selling something mediocre? Because I have personally faced this, and that's why I moved to product side, where there are a lot of stuff which the advertising just bumps it up. The product itself is useless or not working enough, good in the market, or it shouldn't be promoted, but due to probably money power or whatever it is being advertised, it is being shown. So can an ad filmmaker take a stand of not taking this mediocre work to the masses?
No, okay, I'm not going to rant about the new generation. However, having ranted about the new generation, I have to say one more thing before I get on to your question, is that there are some films that I've seen which have completely zapped me, which I really think, some of the newer ads, where, yeah, it's like, wow, this works. And very well-made film. And not just well-made film, but everything works about it. It's a perfect ad film kind. So, yes.
Cadbury has been...
recently there have been, right now not immediately coming to mind, but there have been some ads like with Google, and which have been very well made, really very nice, and maza aata hai dekhne ko.
Correct.
No, unfortunately, Kedar, as an ad filmmaker, I can refuse to do a certain film. I can refuse to make a film. But once I have made a film, I do not have the jurisdiction to stop that film from being on the air. Correct. Or anything, irrespective of the fact that the product doesn't work or the product is being bumped up or it shouldn't be there, anything. I would say is that if I don't agree with it, then don't take the film to start with. But if you are going to take the film, then whether you agree with it or not, you have to do justice to it.
No, I understand, but this was slightly towards there are relationship between agencies and production houses, right? They have a long-term association.
Yeah.
So some of the times to get a better ad, there are some not so good ads which are just produced for the sake of it so that the relationship is maintained. So in that case, how can one...
You just kind of, you let the agency know that you're not happy doing that ad, but then it's a personal thing, it's entirely personal, where it's exactly like you said it, you answered part of it, is that it's the relationship between advertising, between the agency and the producer, where the agency person is telling you, ki yaar karna yaar, please karna yaar, is baar kar de yaar, forget everything else, aankh band karke kar. It's like, so you do it because that's a friend. You've had a relationship, you had a commitment to each other. We worked on many films together. So you just turn around and say, yeah, man, if it wasn't you, I wouldn't do it, So that's a very personal thing. And yeah, all of us have been through those situations, where you don't want to do a film or you don't have the time to do a film. And one film has to be squeezed in, And I've also had I've had the situation where there was an ad for Kelvinator for Diwali that suddenly came up in Ogilvy, Delhi.
Okay.
And the client said कि कुछ करना चाहिए दिवाली के लिए, and we got some offers going on refrigerators and things, and we need to do this ad, and the Diwali time is very busy, pre-Diwali. So most producers don't have time. So they called up some 3-4 people who kept saying, yeah, don't have time. Somebody's out of the country, somebody's here, somebody's there. And then I got a call saying that there's this Kelvinator ad. And I said, boss, I don't have time. You know, because I'm shooting something else. And it was like, no, but we've been told to tell you to do it. So I said, yeah, this is like what, Hitlergiri or what, you know? We've been told that you have to do it, type of thing. So I said, no, but I really don't have the time. So then a few hours later, I get a call from this guy who's a brand manager of Kelvinator refrigerators and saying that, hi, my name is so-and-so and I wanted to discuss this film with you. So I'm like, huh? So I'm in Bombay right now. So if we can have a meeting tomorrow morning and things, you know, I'm wondering, why is the brand manager calling me? So I said, yeah, but I haven't agreed to doing that film. And so it was like, can I get back to you? So I said, yeah, sure. 10 minutes later, I get a call from Ogilvy, Bombay, saying that, Veena, these people have come over here and I believe you're doing this film. So I said, you know, I'm the only one who doesn't know that I'm doing this film. And I couldn't understand this pressure. Later on, I got to know is Piyush Pandey was in Delhi. And he was told that this is happening. And he turned around and said, he said, do one thing, call Veena and tell her that she should do the film. So who already approached this and so and so. They said, Veena ko bolo karne ko and tell Veena I said so. So these guys called up and then they turned around and told me, they said, Pandey said that he told you to do it. So I said, yaar, ajeeb log ho yaar tum log. You know, so there was that whole pressure for 3-4 days until I finally managed to get in touch with Piyush. And I was like, boss, what the hell is this here? So karna yaar. He said, yaar, desperate client hai. They desperately need this ad. Terko ek din lagega. So I said, it's not the fact of, you know, even a one-day ad requires 10 days.
Correct.
So this is a personal relationship. Well, this was just a case study, you know, of how Kelvinator, I was pushed into doing the Kelvinator ad, you know, with a lot of pressure coming from people. But it's a personal relationship. So at the end of it,
correct,
you shoot the ad, you bitch about it through the shoot, you let everyone around know that you're doing them a favor. You know, you behave like a spoiled child. You know, and you go on, you know, and then you know for a fact is that the next film they're going to give you or the next film that comes around is going to be logical.
Yeah. Cool. I think this is a good note to end this. Like, obviously there's a lot more to chat about general advertising, and probably we'll I'll love to have you again on AudioGyan. So thanks once again, Veena, for giving us your time, and it was a pleasure talking to you.
No, thank you so much. It's been absolutely wonderful. You're absolutely right. There's so much to talk about with advertising.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Okay. So that's it from today's Gyan session. Stay tuned for more Gyan on AudioGyan next week. Till then, bye.